I want to make sure I get all this right.
Uh-huh.
Public speaker,
Yes.
entrepreneur,
Uh-huh.
podcast host,
Uh-huh.
basketball player,
Uh-huh.
and a college student.
Yeah, a lot of titles. Yeah. I know, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, did I miss any?
No, no, that pretty much covers it.
With the different career paths that you're, taking and different things that you're doing, is there anyone whose career that you would want to emulate or anyone that you see
Mm.
that inspires you?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's not many people who kind of like combined like kind of what I do because I'm a real estate investor. Too. That's where the entrepreneur comes from. I invest in like a lot of real estate and do all types of stuff. And
Wow.
so there's not many people who do real estate who are public speakers as well and are Christians, like and do
Mhm.
it in that world. And
Yeah.
so I mean, I have like a mix of some people. Myron Golden is a guy who's great with like business and finance, but he ties scripture to it. He's great at that. And he's so good. And then obviously like Eric Thomas is one of my mentors, ET, the hip hop preacher. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Oh, I haven't, but it's a new one to look up.
Yeah, he's so good. He's so good. But anyway, he's one of my mentors. He's a great public speaker and all the things. But I think where it gets fun for me is that most people like that are like 50 years old, like 60 years old. And so it gets like super cool to me where I'm trying to figure out and like driven and so passionate, like how can I do it soon? Not in a rush, but like so that I can impact the people like me, like young or black, white, whatever race, like younger people who are in college and are like getting that cultural idea of like, oh yeah, it's okay for me to waste my life right now because life will be in 30, like that whole thing that I
Yeah.
hate. Yeah. So that's kind of why I do it. And so to long answer, Myron Golden, ET, my mom's pretty good too. Uh, and stuff and people like that. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And you were talking about, being an example kind of to a younger generation that they can inspire
Mhm.
to just like really appreciate life and to really
Yeah.
be motivated and ambitious and love it. So what I want to know is what inspired you to start your new podcast, Full Fledged? Like why the name?
Mhm.
Where did it come about? Because you do
Yeah.
it with your mom, Priscilla Shirer. So how did that start?
Um, that's also another great question. I remember we were sitting at our dining room table and we were talking about something random that had nothing to do with the podcast or anything. And then she was like, we should do something together. And this is like before I really started getting into public speaking and all that. She was like, we should do something together. And I was like, huh, that would be fun. I guess we should. And so I was like, I kind of think about like, what should we do that would be fun that we could do together? Like, I don't know. Like, she's over in Dallas, I'm in Virginia. Like, I don't know what that could be.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, and my uncle Anthony Evans, he's such a creative-minded person. He helped me like come up with the idea of like, oh, full fledged, like it would be a great idea, podcast, mom, son, like nobody does that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, that would be fun. And so like for 3 or 4 months, I was just thinking about it and kind of planning it out. How would it work with us being so far apart? What I need to do with all the backgrounds of YouTube and all the details that nobody thinks about. And so
Yeah.
I did that for like 3 or 4 months, and it was a lot, a lot. And then, finally came out. And so that's kind of how that started. It was fun though. I love doing it.
So sweet. I love it. I love it. I just started it, and honestly, it's become one of my favorite
Actually,
podcasts. Yeah,
that
honestly,
makes me feel so good, actually.
I
That's
love it. Where did the name Full Fledged come from?
okay. So again, my uncle actually came up with it because I was thinking about a title and I just couldn't find it. And so he was like full fledged. I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't like what I don't even know. And so he was like, so fledging is actually the process of when a mother bird kicks the baby bird out the nest and he can fly on its own. That's called fledging. And so that kind of dynamic with mother and son kind of thing was cool. And then full fledged, kind of just like authentic, real, full fledged, like we're all in it type of ordeal. So that's kind of how the name came about.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it was just so random and cool. Okay,
Yeah.
like do it. I was like, all right, let's do it.
That was brilliant. So you're doing the podcast with your
Mhm,
mom.
mhm.
Are there any times where you're like, okay, cut the cameras. You're trying to like, how do you balance personal stories with stories that can go public? Are there times where,
Oh,
your mom is like, when he wet the bed as a kid, and you're like, cut, cut, cut.
just got it. Just let's just stop right there.
How do you guys
Um,
balance that?
you know, okay, so our whole lives, my mom goes up on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people and tells our most embarrassing stories. So that for me has just been something that I've had to get over and deal with for the last 15 years of my life. She'll really get up there and be like, yeah. And so he went to a baseball game and his head was down because he was losing. And I'm like, yo, what are we doing right now? Like, what is going on? And so that kind of hasn't been necessarily a problem because I kind of grew up with it or whatever. And I mean, I'm a type of person like if you dish it out, I just hope you can take it back. So I'm telling stories of you that might be embarrassing and you can't cut the camera. You know what I mean? And so like, those are the best stories to me. Like the ones that like are like, should you be saying that? Like a little bit like, oh, that's funny, but like I might be embarrassed a little bit. Or those are the best ones to me because those are such so raw and authentic. And so that's kind of what Full Fledged is about. What I want it to be about. It's just like super raw, super authentic, super just like real. Like should they have cut the camera during that?
That's so cool. Did you have any, because like I said, it's one of my favorites now. And did you have any challenges like starting the podcast? Like, was there a learning curve or anything? Because you seem like a natural, like just for everyone watching, in one of his podcasts, he ties in like I think it was your brother getting dress coded, like,
Mhm.
wearing,
Mhm.
kind of casual pants.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's this full word and revelation that comes from it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I never would have thought, like, how do you tie that? How does that connect? Like,
Oh,
how do you, was that just something you have, or is that something you had to really like work on? And
with that part about it, it's kind of something that like as I became like more of like a prominent public speaker, trying to like, actually find things that happen in my life and really paying attention and writing them down and just trying to figure out how God uses things that happen on an everyday basis to show us how good he is and to show us his word and what to do. I really started just kind of more so paying attention because naturally it didn't come to me at first, like that
yeah,
kind of stuff, like because I didn't really care or think about it. Like I was
yeah,
just like, it's it happened. Okay, that's funny, and then just go about a day. But when I started becoming, like I said, more of like speaking publicly, I started like really looking at those things and like, how is this? How is it like a word attached to this? Because my mom is so good at it. And so
mhm,
something will happen and she'll be like, say something. And I'm like, yo, I don't know how you just came up with it. Like, I don't know. And so I had to think about it a little bit, but as I've like kind of thought about it more so, it's kind of every time something happens now, I'm like, oh, wow, I can see how God is like this in this situation or this one. And so, like, I've trained myself now to kind of see it and see things in different lights and just try to find God's glory and God's instruction in so many different ways. And it's so incredibly cool.
that's so cool. And you touched on it a little bit, but I kind of want to go into it. So, I mean, your family, you guys are like titans in the
Mhm.
faith. Like, if your mom, your grandfather, your uncles, what was it like growing up? Like, what was that
Yeah.
childhood like?
Yeah, it was a good question. So if you can't tell already, I'm very like, who cares? Like I'm very like just like easygoing. And
Yeah.
so most people ask me the question like, was it hard growing up as Tony Evans' grandson or as Priscilla's son, and all the stuff? And I always most people's answer would be like yes, like if they're PK or something like that.
Yeah.
Mine was always like no, like I was gonna do what I was gonna do, regardless of who my parents were or grandparents were. Like there was a level of like thing where I'm like, okay, I need to, make sure I act right because it is a reflection on them. But for the most part, um I didn't have any like stress or like feel over anxious about having to perform because of who my people were. And it never was really like that. What really got it for me is the last name Shire. Like, how can I represent my last name well? Like it had nothing to do with who they were. It just had to do with who I represent. Shire. It was the first thing. And then as it got more connected to my faith, it was like, no, like I actually want to represent God, no matter who my parents are. My parents could be people that nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like I want to represent God regardless of anything. And so to answer your question, growing up was pretty standard. Like it was very like I feel like most like it wasn't anything spectacular or different that most people who grew up in church. No, it was just regular kids who went to church and with parents who loved Jesus. Like it was, you know, pretty standard.
Yeah. Is there is there a memory that you have, like that you look back on and you think back on your mom, and you're like, man, you killed that parenting moment. Like that
Mhm.
memory shaped a lot of who I am today and the decisions that I make. Like, is there like one memory you're like, and you
I
killed?
gotta think of a lot of the bad ones are coming up first. But I'm like, yo, I'm so mad at her in this moment. I'm trying to think of the good ones. I mean, there are a lot of good ones. I don't know a specific time necessarily, but this one particular thing that my mom does well is that whenever we do something really, really stupid, she's really good at not responding out of anger.
Mm.
So she's always the first one to be like, okay, you know what? Let's talk about it. I might still whoop you after, but right now, let's talk about it first. Let me understand why you thought it was okay, if you think it was okay, and let's fix it spiritually first, and then the consequences can come after that. And so that whole idea was has really resonated with me in a lot of ways that don't come with parents and children, but come with like exemplifying my life and exemplifying Jesus through the way that I do everything, is not responding out of anger first. Like if
Yeah.
someone makes me mad or someone makes me angry or anything like that, how can I respond in a way that doesn't lead with my emotions, but that, as Jackie Hill Perry says so well, combats emotions with theology.
Mm.
So that's kind of that idea of how she parents us in that way impacts my life in many other ways that have nothing to do with obviously because I don't have kids.
Wow. So, okay, so you grew up in a like sounds like you grew up in a pretty like spirit-filled
Yeah.
household, like
Oh,
very, presence of God was there.
mhm,
Was there a time when, you felt full-fledged and you were like, okay, this like my faith is my own now, like where you felt
mhm,
um like, okay, this is the moment where I feel like my relationship with God is my relationship with God, that we're going to work out
mhm,
together, that you
mhm,
felt it was not in a bad way, but
mhm,
disconnected from your parents and it was just fully
mhm,
your own?
mhm. Yep. And I don't know if I talked about this on a podcast episode, but I feel like I did on one of the lives that we did. That one of the biggest struggles for me was leaving the household of where Jesus resided and going into my own place because
Oh,
Virginia is obviously very far from Texas, and that's where I go to college. And
yeah.
so I'm just like not close. And so it's so easy to live off of mommy and daddy and grandpa's faith
Yeah.
and actually have your own. And so I didn't realize that I was how much I was doing that until I left and then I was on my own. And so then I go to college and then I'm like, I start doing college people activities. And then I'm just like, yo, this is not like I thought my faith was stronger than this because I was in a household that the environment promoted good things. But when I got out of the household, it wasn't me that was doing the good things, it was the environment that promoted it. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I was when I got to college, it was oh shoot, like I need to figure out my relationship with God and not my mom's. And so that's kind of when in college started to cultivate, but I really didn't feel like I had a solid, strong personal relationship with God until I mean a little while after I got to college, maybe after my first year, I kind of that's when I started really developing and being intentional and just like being disciplined about getting a relationship with God personally.
Mhm.
And so I always knew who God, and I told my mom this all the time. I'm just so thankful that you were able to, that I knew that when things got bad, who to go to. You know what I mean? Like you may not be
Yeah.
able to cultivate the relationship for me, but what you did tell me is that this is the person you need to go to when you need a relationship. And so I always was like, okay, you know what? Like in college, after the first year was kind of when I was like, okay, I need a more personal relationship with God, and that's one of the titles that I give God now that I love so much is He's personal. God is such a personal God. He wants a relationship with you, not just the environment you're in, not just the church or your mommy. He wants a relationship with you, and He can work in your life personally. And so that's kind of how that trajectory of my relationship kind of shifted. But it was so good because if I didn't move away from college that far, if I didn't move from Texas to Virginia and all the stuff, I probably wouldn't have had to have as deep of a relationship with God as I do now. And so that was kind of how that relationship with God for me all unfolded.
Yeah. Wow. I think you covered it, but my next question was going to be with all the changes that you've gone through in like the past
Mhm.
couple of years, it's been, moving, like you said, out of the state, going to college, doing basketball, taking up all these new changes. How
Mhm.
has your faith evolved in the past couple years?
Yeah,
Like, have you noticed a big difference, a big change, or
incredibly.
especially with taking the new podcast?
Night and day. Night and day. Night and day. Like I don't even know if there's words to put into how much of the difference that there is. But like I said, all the moving away was such a big change. The trials and tribulations that come with basketball, that went that helped me so much in actually trusting God with what He has for me. Um, and I mean, a myriad of other things, like, as it comes to cultivating relationships and friendships in college with new people and all the things that come with that was definitely what catapulted my relationship with God. I mean, it was night and
Mm,
day difference. Like I knew God, and when I was at home, I knew who He was and I loved Him and all the things, but I wasn't a disciple. I think
yeah.
that's where the difference is that you can be a follower of Jesus and that's free. The gift of salvation is free and all this stuff. But if you want to be a disciple, it comes at a cost. And so
Mm,
that's when I got to college and all those things started happening, and then you have no choice but to lean on somebody that's stronger than you because you actually can't do it by yourself. Like it was that moment when it was like, okay, like that's when I need to actually start cultivating this relationship with God and then become a disciple in what He has because I mean, there's so many people that are like that. And so or have that problem in their faith. And so like that's kind of was the transition of, you know, the high school of not really following God like that for real, like knowing He was, but not really. And then actually cultivating a relationship in college.
wow. So how do you stay grounded in your faith, like with all the new and the changes that you were talking about, like in the
Huh?
new environment, the college, the,
Mhm.
new friends, everything? How do you stay grounded and rooted in Christ
Mhm.
when all of this is going on?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that's hard. Like it's not easy for anybody. And so, but I think what's been most important for me was the groups that I hang around, the people that I have in my life. And so I mean, I could list 4 or 5 of my closest friends, but they on a daily basis help me through everything that I'm going and vice versa. And such a great community and my basketball team as well. Like we have such a family and a community, a God-centered, God-fearing group that
Mm.
when you start getting outside of your identity, they're able to be like, nah, this ain't you. I know the real you, pull you back in. And so I think that has been the one of the main factors of staying rooted in my faith is knowing that or being able to have people that actually can call you out and be like, no, that's not right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that has been one of the main things. I think that's one of the main things that most people don't have nowadays as well is like a good group of people, especially people my age, a good group of people to be disciple, like become disciples with, to be in community with, to learn from, to share your burdens with, all the things that a good group provides. Like that's what's keeping me rooted in my faith.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. And like to know that it's your teammates and that, you're kind of
Mhm.
getting it from different
Yeah.
sources. You've kind of created your own environment
Mhm.
where you get fed from different places. Um, okay, so for anyone watching, you talked about how you have, your teammates and the people in your life who will call you out
Mhm.
when, something gets crazy
Mhm.
or whatever it is. Have you ever, is there like an example? Because I think there are some people that are watching that are like, yeah, I try to do it, but I don't know how to do it lovingly. Or like, was there a time that you can remember like someone called you out or you had to like say like, hey, to a friend, like,
Yeah.
don't, like,
Oh,
how did it happen? How'd you do it?
1,000%. I think the main, it's hard for sure,
Yeah.
but I think the main thing is because there's a point where it's help and then there's a point where it's self-righteousness. And
Mm,
you're trying to call like the Bible verse that says, talk about a splinter in someone else's eye, but you got a plank in your own, kind of that thing. And so one of the main things that I felt that helps that combat that is actually having a real authentic relationship with the person before you call them out. And so most of the friends and the groups that I have, we've been friends for 3 or 4 years, like since the beginning of college. That's when I've known them all, and I stuck. In it. They're still my friends to this day. Great, great friends. And so it's like we've cultivated such an authentic relationship outside of me calling you out that you know me calling you out is not for the detriment of you, it's for your betterment. And they also understand that so they can take it in a way that's responsive and not reactive. And so I think that's what the main thing. Most people want to call everybody out. They see like all these people calling people out, and it needs to be no. How can I do it from love? And the way you can do that is through an authentic relationship with them first. And so I think that's the main point. And then when you have an authentic relationship, it's still going to be hard to say it, but
Yeah.
it will be much easier to combat it afterwards from both parties if you know that you love each other first.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's so true. I think back on the times when yeah, I've gotten called out by,
Mhm.
people I'm close to and people I'm
It's
not
not,
close
not
to.
comfortable. It's definitely not a comfortable position to be in, but
Yeah. But yeah, seeing the difference of when, I knew that it was from love because I knew where they came coming from and
mhm.
I knew them and they was close to them. And so I felt the love from them.
Mhm.
Um, okay, I would be making all the guys in my family mad if I didn't ask you some basketball
Of
questions.
course, of course, of course,
Okay.
of course.
So just kind of broad one. This is just kind of
Mhm.
a little bit general, but looking back, what has been the most rewarding aspect of playing basketball so far?
I would say figuring out how to work within a team, within a system to accomplish one goal. I think that's been the
Okay.
most rewarding thing because as a basketball player, it's 15 guys on the team, and everybody has different roles that the coach asks of them in order to come together as one unit in order to win a championship. And so I think that that's an aspect in life that is crucial, especially like when it comes to, I mean, jobs or if you're a leader, CEO, whatever it is, like
Yeah.
you need to be able to understand how to work in a team together, how to talk to this person and talk to this person, and how to build relationships that's stronger than when a loss happens. How do we combat it? All the things of togetherness and teamwork to accomplish one goal. I think that's been the most rewarding lesson that I've learned. Most rewarding thing that I learned how to do, being at Liberty and playing basketball there. And so I would say that, as well as the relationships, like some of them are my brothers for life. Like they're all my brothers for life, and we've developed such great relationships with a lot of them. And so that's been reward. Those two things have been the most rewarding for sure.
What advice would you give to young athletes if there's someone, watching this video and wants to follow in your footsteps,
Mhm.
whether it be through, real estate investing, through your podcast, through your public speaking, through your basketball career? What advice would you give to them?
I would say, ooh, there's so much. This is the part that I love. Okay, there's so much. I'm gonna say that one of my favorite quotes. This is a business guy from his name is Alex Hormozy, and he says this one quote all the time. I'm gonna butcher it, but basically the premise is that you'll cut out most of the competition by just not quitting. And so I think that most people have this dream and they aspire for, and they do it for a little bit, and then when they see no results, they stop. And so the idea of outlasting is something that we actually talk about in our program a lot. Is that how can you outlast everybody by keep going and just not stopping? Because if you just don't stop, everybody else will wither out. And when they don't see results and all that, like just don't stop. Just keep going is the first thing that I say. And the second thing I say is figure out your why, of why you do the things that you want to do. Like, why do you want to be a Division I athlete? Why do you want to be a real estate investor? Why do you want to be a public speaker? And so when your why becomes not about yourself, that's when you can keep going. Because when I want to be a public speaker, because I love inspiring kids and motivating kids and teaching young adults, people my age, maybe older than me, younger than me, like motivating them on how to get through the things that they're going through, or teach them how to get into a certain position that they want to get in. And so that's not of myself. Real estate investing is for long-term financial goals for my future family that I have no idea who they are. Like that's my why, because my future family is not even for me. And so my point is that all the things that of the why do what I want to do is for the glorification of God and for the benefit of somebody else. Is to serve people and and to please God. And so with all those things, it's really, really hard to give up if those are your whys. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I would say those two things, the first thing that came to my head when you asked me that question.
Cool. Are there any specific Bible verses or was there a sermon that really spoke to you recently that you're like, man, this just hit me hard and kind of changed? I mean, I ask you that though, but again, like for the people watching, he got revelation from his brother getting dress coded at a restaurant. So I'm like, you probably have so many. You're like, yeah, I
Oh,
was walking down the street and an apple fell on my head and I just had this amazing.
and now Newton's law, and then I thought Newton's law of the Bible. Yeah, right. All that. But no, actually I do. And so one of my favorite verses actually ever is in Daniel. It's the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, where they were King Nebuchadnezzar was like, worship the false gods and bow down to my idols. And then the three didn't. And so he was like, maybe it was a mistake. I'll let you try again. Bow down to my idols. And they were like, and they said something so powerful, which I think a lot of people miss, is that or let me back up. King never said, or I'm going to throw you into the fire. That's
Mhm.
what he said. If you don't bow down, and so most people miss this, and I think it's so powerful. The three, they were like, we're not gonna. We know our God will deliver us from the fire. We know when we go in, we're gonna be fine. God's got our back. All the things. So they have full faith in God to get them out of the situation that they were going to be in. And then they said, but even if He does not, we still will not worship your gods. We still will not worship your idols and all the stuff. And so I think it's so powerful the fact that you can have full, complete faith that God is going to do, that God is going to protect you, that God is going to save you, that God is going to get you through the trials of life, the circumstances of life, the fires of life. But then, even if He doesn't, you still aren't going to do the thing. You still aren't going to worship the false god. That faith is incredible to me. And so that idea of, but even if he does not, because this is where Daenu, it would have been enough. It would have been sufficient if he just died on the cross. If he did nothing else for you, you should still serve him with all your life. And so that idea is embedded in my brain of, but even if he does not, I still will not worship the false god. I still will not bow down to what the world says. I still will not do all the things that goes against God's word because Diane he has already done enough.
Yeah, I love that. I love Daniel's one of my favorite books.
So good. It's so good.
Did you ever have a moment like that where your faith was challenged, in
Oh,
whatever way, and you had to like, okay, I
man.
feel it, even if it's like only internal.
Right. Every day. That's what I feel like. Every single day is what I feel like. I mean, there's times where like there's times in real estate investing and there's times in public speaking of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Everybody has the times in their jobs, in college, especially people when they move or they're graduating, they don't know what the job situation is gonna look like after college and all that type of stuff. That takes a faith to know that God, you're gonna place me in the right place. You're gonna put me in the position that you want me to be in, that I'm going to be okay. And
Yeah.
so everybody comes to that realization or to that fork in the road at some point where it's like, okay, I have to operate by faith because what I see is just not, it's not seeing.
Yeah.
The stuff's not lining up. And so, but that's why I love the God that we serve because why would I want to serve a God that makes sense? Like no, it's like I think about it all the time. Like, man, if God made sense to me, then that means I could do everything that God doing because everything
Yeah.
that He thinking, I'm thinking. And so the fact that He does stuff that I don't even think about, I'm not even seeing as a real possibility, and He orchestrates everything so perfectly in everybody else's lives for you to match up with that job that you just got out of college with perfectly is like the fact that we need to operate by faith is so important because he has something so much better than what we could ever construct. And so that whole idea is just uh is everybody comes across it, but walking by faith and not by sight is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah, that's so, so true. That's so true. Even just this conversation, man, it's just making me so excited. Honestly, in a weird way, like it's making me so excited. And I'm like, I'm so excited for everyone watching to go and if they haven't discovered your podcast, like discover your podcast because it's incredible. And it's like
Thank you.
full of just, I mean, it's you, obviously. So it's full of things like this where you just
Right,
drop
because
such words and wisdom. And then you and your mom, Priscilla Shirer, the way you guys bounce back and forth off each other are there any plans to have like to invite other guests to?
Yes, I would love to invite other guests. I really do. I just need to figure out the time in which to do it because I'm only home for a certain amount of time because
Yeah.
basketball the whole year it feels like. And so there's a certain amount, a lot of time where I can be home and I want to get guests on. Like I think it would be so funny because people and I'm gonna make them wear onesies too. And so if they don't want to wear onesies, they're just not getting on the show. And so it's I want to, but yes, I want to invite yes. I think that'd be so fun.
Who would be the number one choice? Who's like
Oh,
the number one, like, okay.
Jackie Hill Perry, without a doubt. Without a doubt. She's incredible. I mean, I'm sorry, Mom and Pastor Tony Evans. She's my favorite Bible teacher right now. She's incredible. Like, oh my gosh. And so to have her on the show, and I watch With the Perrys, their podcast all the time.
Yeah.
Have her even impressing on the show, and for them to, oh yeah, that's number one, without a doubt. Need to make that happen. Need to make that
See,
happen.
yeah, we need to make that happen. Anyone just comment down below,
Yeah.
just like tag her.
If you know Miss Jackie and Mr. Preston, go ahead and just tag them below or wherever this goes and figure out how to arrange that situation. Help me out, please.
Well, okay, so in case I didn't miss anything, or if I missed anything, what do you have like what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about next? I mean, you're doing 50 billion ventures, but
Yeah, right. Uh,
what are you looking forward to? What's coming up next?
so I'm staying for another season of basketball at Liberty University. So that's always something to look forward to next year, all the season happening. But I have a lot of things that I'm working on as well. Obviously, the podcast is going to continue, and so there's so many more episodes and seasons that we have in store for everybody. So I'm super excited about that. There's a lot of high schools and colleges that I have lined up to go speak, and so that would be great. But one of the things that I'm really, really excited about is I want to start something that is specifically catered to young adults and entrepreneurs in college. And so I have a couple people that I've talked to that are young adults as well and that are entrepreneurs that have been successful. And I want to start something that kind of gets us all in a room and we can all kind of figure out things and maybe we can talk about the struggles that we've had or the things that we've gone through and all the stuff and
Yeah.
maybe help some young aspiring college students, whether entrepreneur or not, and just love all the things. And so that's kind of I'm brainstorming that, but look out for that soon because I'm definitely gonna work that out.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, I have to ask this before I forget.
Yep.
Okay, okay. What was going through your mind? Back to basketball. What was going through your mind when you got called up to play during March
Oh
Madness?
my gosh. Okay, so this is gonna be another 5 minutes. So
Yes.
hang on to your seats. So I'm gonna take you through the step by step emotion because it obviously ended in a word. Of course, God be doing his little thing, but big thing I should say. But anyways, so I go to the scores table. I'm about checking the game. The game is still going on. The ref stops the game, acts like there's a wet spot. There's definitely not a wet spot on the court. Acts like there's a wet spot to stop the game, calls an official timeout, and then gets me in the game. And so I've known the ref for a little while. He's refed our games at Liberty. He's talked to our team before. And so he said something to me when I walked in, and it was hilarious. So I was dying laughing, trying not to die laughing. Like, yo, I'm about to get in the game. I can't be laughing and smiling this hard. And so I was laughing, dapped him up, whatever. And so it was super, super cool moment in the moment. And so it was so fun being able to play in March Madness. It's such a privilege and a blessing. Like most people dream of that. Like I was dreaming of that as a kid, watching it on TV.
Wow.
To be able to actually be in that on the court with all the people around, it was so cool. So it was like super surreal. And so I obviously did not know it was gonna go viral. And so what happened was after the game, it was 20 minutes after the game, like 20 minutes. My brother, he sends me the video. He like sends me on Instagram, DMs me. It already has like 15,000 likes. I mean, I just got out the game. And so we just are in the locker room. Like, I'm just like, wow, okay, so it's got a lot of likes. But it was like CBS and CBS Sports posted it like collab. So,
Yeah.
it's like it have a lot of likes. I'm not worried about it. At first, I feel a little bit like, I don't know if I want this to blow up because it was a cool moment, but at the same time, in my head, I'm like, and this is full transparency. I'm like, yo, people are gonna think like, oh, he didn't play. He's like not good at
Oh,
basketball. It's one of those things where he's like, he's getting at the end of the game, haha, kiki. He's not one of those things.
yeah.
So I hated that idea. I hated that whole thing, that image or that like idea could get put in other people's heads that I can't really play basketball like that. And so I hated that. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm actually kind of a little bit livid at this point. I'm like, I'm not even going to worry about it. It's whatever. It's going to go away. It's March Madness. They're going to post so many other posts. Who cares? Like, it's going to go away tomorrow. I look at tomorrow, the next morning, and it has 3.2 million views. And I'm like, so it's not going away. It's definitely still here. It's not going away. And so I'm like, okay, you know, I'm extra mad at this point. I've talked to my parents and my brothers about how mad that I am, and I've gotten 8 million DMs about the video. Like, I obviously haven't seen it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna delete my phone, Instagram. I'm just gonna get off of it because I don't want to see it. There's more games today. They're gonna post more videos, whatever. And so I'm sitting in my hotel room and I'm sitting there thinking about it because now I can't stop thinking about it. And I remember God literally shifted my perspective and was like, yo, actually, there's a platform that I put you on that 3.2 million people have seen, and you're just miring in your own circumstance and self-pride. And I was like, oh shoot, my bad, God, you're right. That's on me. I'm not locked in. And so what I did was I went under CBS Sports and CBS. I went under, I think, House of Highlights and like Balls Life, or some big platforms had posted it. I went under all of them and commented, haha, that was me. I hated doing this, by the way. Haha, this is me. That the Mr. Ref was super cool for that, whatever. And I put Jesus Christ is the way to life, just in case anybody was wondering. I put that under all the posts and then just stopped it. And so the fact that God, and I don't even know what happened after that. Like, people like whatever, got some, obviously some hate, some scrutiny. Who cares? And but what was so cool about it is that God showed me, like, if you just stop miring in your own personal pride and like the
Mhm.
circumstance of what is going through, you need to change the perspective of how can I use this situation to glorify God and help people. And so that whole revelation that hit me, and I remember I was sitting there and it just out of nowhere, I was like, oh yeah, I'm tripping. And so the fact that he kind of gave me that perspective of being able to shift things that you feel like are hurting you or detrimental to you to glorify him actually was just a super cool moment. So anyways, that was like a word rant and all the things, but I just had to share it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad I was remembered.
Seriously.
For everyone, okay, so for everyone watching who just can't get enough of you, your words, your wisdom, everything, where can they find you?
Yes. And so we've already talked about Full Fledged is on YouTube. You can probably look up Full Fledged. I think it'll come up. And then my Instagram is Jerry Shirer Jr. And I think that's all where I'm at for real. Yeah, I think that's it. Yep, that's it. That's it. Just the YouTube and the Instagram.
Perfect. That's all we need. That's all we need. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is fun.
If you enjoy videos that follow your values like ours and you want to help us continue, go to movieguide.org/donate because we're actually a nonprofit. You may not know that, but we're working in Hollywood every day to help families have more choices that follows their values. And also subscribe right now.